Amidst intense activity, if there is absolute calmness of mind, that is the highest love.
Wow.
Amidst intense activity, if there is absolute calmness of mind, that is the highest love. When the mind is trained to remain unmoved and unbalanced in the presence of all external and internal stimuli, it arrives at the state of non wanting. I'll read that again.
Beautiful. Yeah.
When the mind is trained to remain unmoved and balanced in the presence of all external and internal stimuli, it arrives at the state of non wanting.
Yeah, that reminds me of I've mentioned this before that Delia was a real worrywart. She worried all the time. And in the middle of the Second World War, I mean, when London was being bombarded, where I mean, if worry was going to get activated, it was going to get activated under those circumstances. Baba sent her a cable. I don't know if this is the exact wording, but Baba said, "Remain calm. If you remain calm, I can work through you." So imagine sending that to a worrywart in the middle of World War, when London was being bombarded. But I'm sure she did it. You know, I mean, that's an order from Baba, and I'm sure she did it. I wish I had known that to ask her when I was with her, but a lot of these things I didn't know at the time.
I got a short quote here, Jeff,
Yeah.
from Darwin's book, As Only God Can Love. It's talking about the 3 incredible weeks. In the first week, on Tuesday, September 14th, 1954, Baba said, "One who wants nothing gets everything. Nothing means nothing, and one who wants nothing is never disappointed." I always like that.
Yeah.
I think the future of the human race, these are my words. This is a quote from Lord Mayor 3383 online. And here Baba is speaking about the future of the world. How long lasting is this world, and how many times has it been formed and wiped out? Many a world has gone, and this too will go. To take its place, another world is being made ready. 3/4 of it is already ready, 1/4 remains to be formed. If this world is destroyed today, evolution will start in another. Evolution consists of a fixed process of ages: Stone Age, Vegetable Age, Worm Age, and so forth. If this world is destroyed today, an interval will remain, but by natural processes, new life in the new world will take millions of years to materialize. Billions of years are required for another world to come into being.
Billions of what?
Well, it takes millions of years
Yeah. Okay.
to form another world, and then we will have to wait. In between, we will not be able to reincarnate. This might take more than millions of years.
I mean,
Wow.
we could be in storage for a long time.
I hadn't heard that part. Yeah, wow.
No, it can take us. We actually stay in a limbo state.
Yeah.
Not here, not there. We cannot express our sanskaras. Cannot gratify any desire. That's a hell state.
Purgatory, actually.
But anyway, so we better take care of these opportunities that we have at the moment.
Yeah, do as much as we can now. So
can read also what my thought about this. I think these are my words. I think the future of the human race is hanging on those who keep primarily the remembrance of the beloved as much as we can. This might justify the construction of a new world. And of course, I have no idea what will happen tomorrow morning and don't care much for the future. These are my words.
Yeah.
But I'm quite convinced, and this is my insights, that if you will have a world at all, depends will be people who are sincere about the ongoing march of humanity. And this is not going to happen for gratifying the self-centeredness of humanity, which is, I think, 99.999% of humanity are totally selfish. And they will not receive a new opportunity if there won't be a core of people who will justify it. That's my insight.
Well, Baba did say that this Kali Yuga is
That's my words.
75% selfishness. So we'll add a few more percentage points of selflessness there. Hopefully, they're still there and they haven't blown away.
One of the I understood his descriptions of being selfless. If we feel for others, just the same as we feel for our dear ones. If you see an abandoned person in the street and you feel for him, just say for your dear son. And most of us don't feel like this, and we cannot do this. So that's quite a challenge.
Yeah.
At least to feel it, at least to know that we have a problem. That's a start for something.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say is that we are responsible. We have a lot of responsibilities hanging on all of us.
Yeah. No, the best we can do is remember Baba and maybe that maybe
That's what I
this
said.
planet might be saved in spite of itself.
Or at least we'll get a new opportunity.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Yes, it's up to. There should be this core of people who are centered on the beloved.
I have done some work with some of the indigenous people in our area, and there's one thing that comes up over and over again. It's the saying that whatever you do today, remember that it impacts 7 generations to come. So think twice before you do anything, because your responsibility is for that next 7 generations.
Wow.
You think about that, it changes everything you do.
Yeah.
Well, it's very sobering, and it's impossible to know what's going to happen in 5 days from now. So to
Exactly.
be responsible, you know.
I know, but it makes you think when you do something that might impact out there in the world. Anyway, just
No, of course.
Fred Marks told me that Baba had said to him that live every day as if it's your last day, but also as if you will live for 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's, it's letting it go in the present, but at the same time, envisioning how the effect of your life will be, and how, over a period of 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Also, Jeff.
Yeah.
I along these same lines, that little thing that Monty said from Heather's talk about, she said, be careful how you pack your suitcase in this life, because how you pack your suitcase in this life, you will open that suitcase in the next life. And that was such a visual. I really liked that.
Yeah.
Simple, but to the point.
And don't forget your toothpaste.
Marta, where'd that come from? That
Money. Heather shared it in her talk yesterday.
Right, Heather.
Yeah, she used to share that. Here's an interesting thing that I found great, great strength in, is where Baba says, and maybe Mayor Prasad could find the quote, but when I read it, it was very whatever, very confirming about life, is whatever qualities you develop in this lifetime, as in the divinely human qualities, you carry on to your next life. In other words, if you've reached a certain degree of patience in this life and you've worked for it, you just pick up where you left off in your next life. If you've developed a certain level of spontaneous generosity, that will carry over. The divine qualities carry over, and all your reputation, your belongings and everything don't necessarily carry over.
So I have a question for that.
Yeah.
So you told that incredible story about the man who made you crazy for decades.
Yeah.
And how you went to the Samadhi and Baba told you that you had done to him in a previous lifetime what he's doing to you.
Yeah, not necessarily to him, but just but exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Right. So you just said the divine qualities are in the suitcase with you.
Yeah.
What about these somewhat lousy qualities?
The degree to which you've worked on those lousy qualities, if you are very impatient in this lifetime, but at the end of your lifetime you reach a certain level of patience, you'll carry over. If you're still losing your temper right and left, by the end of your life, you may be a very temperamental guy in your next life, and you'll have to work through it. But we're not losing everything. The work that we do on the divine qualities remains with us. Hey, so I had asked Jack here to read a guzzle.
Today's Sunday, and Sunday in my dad's bar growing up, there was always a time when after the fourth beer or whatever, drinks were always on the house. So this is Baba's response to drinks on the house.
Good.
Okay?
Yes.
I am the divine beloved who loves you more than you can ever love yourself. Oh, lovers of mine, it seems that you have forgotten what that really means. Again, you have forgotten what you are here for. You are my channels of love's widening streams. Bartenders, waiters, waitresses, dishwashers, cooks, chefs, stockers, janitors, bouncers, and such, the keepers of my tavern store. Too many of you are getting drunk on soured wine, brought in under cover of cloak. Did I not tell you that my wine is free? From now on until the tavern door closes, on this have I not spoke? How blind are you then that this you do not see? My love cannot be stored on false ego's shelf, bottled and labeled number one, or mine, or selfish me. Love, my grace, has no place in your personal self. For shame for not serving my wine and damming up this ever-flowing sea. My tavern door is open. All these new customers filing in. Where will they drink if the bar itself remains clogged? They're tired of traveling and don't care to sit. It's time they tasted what it is to really love God. But if your back is a wall that sits on a stool, engrossed in self-problems and no care for those others, how can you remember the reason I came? To awaken love's consciousness, not keep it under the covers. So wake up, for you are my channels for this glorious feast. Your kind of drunkenness, your dinner, your sleep, these are not on my agenda. You are the dough and my love is the yeast. You are the carriers and I am the sender. For my wine is served only in the finest crystal cut glass. You are my servers, one glass and one plate, presented to each customer, regardless of caste, creed, or class, no matter what country, nation, or state. Have you a problem dispensing my wine? It has neither taste that can be sensed, nor voice that can be heard. So holding back from serving it is patently absurd. So please me, wake up, for my time has arrived. Dust off the stools, the seats, put the linen in place. Put my rose on each table. There's no need for a bribe. Intuition will then echo the divine interface. Oh, beloved, Ambrose shakes his head and tears his heart at this piercing tirade and realizes there's nothing to ask and nothing to trade, just to be available as your wine is made, and with your grace on everyone's table is laid. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Sure.
From a bar owner's son.
Yeah.
He knows of which he speaks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack.
Sure.
Well, I realize that there has been a lot going on this weekend.
Would you like a moment of silence?
Oh, yeah. Jai Baba.
Hey, Papa.
Okay. Well, in this next chapter, we have one last section in the previous one, and then we're moving on to, I think the title of it is I Don't Live Here Anymore. Very good title. Moving to a different place. But one of the things that Darwin brings up here is one of the very most difficult things, I think. I've never been able to really make it stick, which is the provisional ego. And a provisional ego is like essential. I mean, it's one of the essentials, and yet it's very hard to, I've had a very difficult time. Sometimes I've done it for months and everything, and there's a nice kind of freedom and everything, but then somehow I sink back down into my old ways, because it's hard to imagine, that it's Baba filling out my income tax forms, or washing the dishes, or cleaning the gutters in a house. That is Baba doing it. And so one day I said to Merwan in Mandalay Hall, Irich's brother, I told him that I've done this, the provisional ego, but I haven't been able to make it stick. What would you recommend? And so Merwan said, do this. When you go to the store, say, Baba, come with me. I'm going to the store. I have to pick some things out for dinner. Baba, come with me while I pick things out for dinner. Baba, help me mow the lawn. Be with me when I mow the lawn. And then he even said, and if you have to piddle, say, Baba, come with me. I'm going to have to piddle. So I said to Merwan, well, I really felt that that's doable. And and I said, well, that's plan B. What you're giving me is plan B. And he said, yes. Plan A is that Baba is the doer. He's doing everything. And this is a plan B, a way of getting toward that. So there's some people, I'm sure, who do, have been successful at this. But of course, when you feel love eclipsing you, you feel, well, then everything from there Baba's doing. but it's all these kind of little piddling things. It's hard to imagine the Lord of creation doing all these little things. I mean, it takes a little bit of work. Anyway, so let's start.
What page, please?
Yeah, it's in chat. Page 93 of the book, page 55 of the PDF.
The gift of longing. Longing is essential on the spiritual path. It wears out the wanting of low desires. When I saw Mayor Baba for the first time for 3 days in New York in 1934, he filled me with so much love and tremendous longing for the spiritual life. The more satiated with Baba's love I became, the more longing I felt. At that time, I did not realize that this was a great gift, that he had inflicted this longing upon me, and that this is what we all need. Longing for God is like a gasoline for the automobile. It provides fuel for the spirit. It provides energy that reaches towards reality. The energy of longing is like a drilling machine that bores through many obstacles at the inner level, burning up sanskaras that bind us. It especially counteracts our desire nature and redirects our energies towards discovering the truth within. I've come to understand that it is extremely important to do what we can to foster and encourage this longing. For example, we can read the books of saints, works of saints and Baba's writings, especially the parts that inspire love. I think that once we have a glimpse of that inner life, we will realize that this is what we really want, and we will not want to be sidetracked, even though we do get sidetracked again and again. When that happens, we simply try to get back on track and go for the real goal. When we mature, we will naturally turn to God with longing for our home in God.
Beautiful.
What is this inner, what was it called? Inner longing, or the longing that they're talking about, he's talking about, is that like remembering Baba? Or how is it manifesting in the physical realm internally?
Uh-huh.
I don't
Very good
understand.
question. Yeah. I'll see, we'll see how that question's answered. And if Mayor Prasad is not speaking directly to that, we'll keep it on the table and we'll go to Mayor Prasad. Yeah.
It's interesting that Darwin writes about sidetracked. If you get sidetracked, you can read books like books of saints and so on. My big help is actually reading Darwin Shaw's Effort and Grace whenever I get sidetracked or whenever the longing becomes lower or anything like that. I found that Effort and Grace is the best way to actually bring that back into motion.
Beautiful. Yeah. It's just an invaluable book. Anyone else weighing in on what the question that Marta asked?
I'll try to answer that question. And I think the truth is we all know the answer to that question, even though we asked that question and we can maybe find it in words, but even not being able to answer the question is part of that answer, meaning in my attempt, my life, and I think everyone's life, is a series of contradictions, a series of paradoxes, a series of distractions, distracted in paradoxes and contradictions. I'm going to do such and such, and I know that's really not the highest action. We won't even talk the highest action. There are various things we do that could be self-indulgent, maybe eating too much at a meal, maybe over-exercising. I mean, these are small little things, but there are so many contradictions of things that I know that I do that I would be better off not doing. There are so many paradoxes where I want to be loving, I want to be compassionate, and somebody's done something and I get distracted into my ego and I forget to respond to that person with the love and the compassion that Baba would respond to us. If right in front of him, we would do something that was really clumsy or unconscious, and how would Baba respond versus how I would respond? That longing that you're asking for, Marta, in the most impossible words I can find to describe it, is just really wanting to have the intimate contact on an interior level where you are so connected with the sacred silence of Baba's love. I say to my wife often, well, we need to really go into silence. Rachel, let's go into Baba's love silence. Let's go into Baba's love silence. To be able to go into Baba's love silence, even in sitting quiet meditation for a little bit, is quite the challenge. I'll give you one other little thought. After meditating for decades, I've been talking to some friends who are no longer 30, 40, 50, or 60. And when I heard John say a couple of weeks ago, I have constant thoughts going on in my mind. I have constant thoughts going in my mind. And I have some periods of meditation that are quiet, even some periods a little bit longer than what we would consider as a period of appreciated silence. But there are so many different distractions that take us away from being with Baba. To want to long to remember him as much as possible, as was mentioned, to long to say, Baba, Baba, would you come with me as I wash the dishes? Baba, would you come with me as I, or let Baba speak through my voice, or Baba speak through my riding a bicycle, or let Baba speak through my being. When I'm just talking to a neighbor, I'm continually distracted, to really be very, very honest. And I think even like humbling myself a little bit, I'm being very, very careful not to let it go to my ego, because it sounds like a good answer, but it really is the kind of answer I would want to hear you, Marta, give me if I would ask the question. But the truth is, we know all the answers, and it's clouded by the dust of the ego. It's clouded by our not really wanting to be in touch with the truth, because if we're in touch with the truth, we might get the heck out of the egoic quicksand that we're in. So I'll try to end on some positive thoughts. Not that that's not positive, that is positive. You know,
Good.
we know how it is. We know how we feel when we long for something. Maybe it was that special piece of clothing we wanted, or that special chocolate that we wanted, or that's something that we longed for, but that's mild compared to wanting to long to be with God. Can you imagine how Saint Teresa of Avila, or Rousseau, or Padre Pio, or Moses, or Jesus, or Ramakrishna, or Baba, when he was just a little teenage guy, 19, 18, 17, before he met Babajap? Can you imagine how Meher Baba even longed to be where he would eventually be brought? Not that he knew where he'd be brought, but we have this idea, wow, to be intoxicated with that love, to be drunk with God's love, as Kabir speaks about in the wine. And just, I don't know if any of that touches your heart and your mind and your soul. And if it doesn't, I'm going to jump out the window, Marta.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. We got Cindy.
Baba, everyone.
Yeah.
This is my friend Scott, who's joining the meeting today.
Okay.
And the hello, the longing part. So the first week of my life, I'm doing the dress my soul as Baba at 12 and 5. In the morning and the evening I do it, but I've had that on my phone for the first time ever in the last week. And every time that comes up, I'm immediately on Seclusion Hill, looking at creation with Baba, as Baba, feeling the oneness of everything. And it is such a peaceful, loving place. And I think that is awakening my longing to have that alive, peaceful more and more. And I'm so grateful because, Jeff, when you said last week about there's so many other people doing it, at least at 12 and 5, and that helps support it, I thought, why have I not put this on my phone yet? And so I've started to do that. And I just wanted to share, there's that letting Baba whisk me to Seclusion Hill and feel creation with him, and the unconditional love and the radiant peace and hope does spark more longing for union with God. So I wanted to share that with
Beautiful.
everybody.
Yeah, Cindy, that's lovely. That's taking at 12 o'clock and 5 o'clock to one of the best places on earth.
And Hugh?
In terms of Marta's question, Darwin says, second paragraph, longing for God. That's really what he's talking about. This Jeff touched upon this when he was talking there, and it's longing to have Baba's presence, to be with Baba all the time.
Yeah, and once you have, well, and we all do, once you have kind of a very clear experience of that, which is really just love coming down into the heart of us. And then our consciousness is over there, and we want to get over to where that love is, where that presence is. Like in here where Darwin says that Baba satiated him with his love and inflicted longing for him, because he wanted to get back to that love that Baba saturated him with. And he couldn't forget it. So his consciousness trying to get back to Baba, that magnificent love that he experienced with Baba. And it lasted to him for 17 years. That was longing, because he didn't see Baba again until 52. So that longing has propelled him all the journey inward journey he took. Yeah.
And Heidi?
Yeah, hi everyone. It's hard to feel longing when you're in day-to-day life and even a very busy life. But what I noticed is over time with Baba, if you get quiet, the desire for being with Baba and longing Baba is greater than or supersedes your desire for chocolate or food or whatever else you have to do. And it's slow, but if you keep plugging away at it, that longing builds and it takes over. And then I think it does what Darwin was trying to help us understand, where he says the energy of longing is like a drilling machine that bores through many obstacles at the inner level, burning up sense scars that bind us. It especially counteracts our desire nature and redirects our energies toward discovering the truth within. So the whole feeling of longing for Baba can be dominant, and it burns up sense scars and it leads us into higher levels. And when I first realized this, I was taught this by my little Pomeranian named Spirit. And I noticed with him, he was unusual. And I never met a dog who would prefer my company versus a treat, especially a green bony treat, which he loved. Now, over time, I noticed that even if I gave him the treat, if I was paying attention to him, he'd drop it and just want to play with me, just be with me. And then he would go back to the treat. And I had a picture of Baba holding one of the puppies in his little area. And it just struck me that he is evolving. He's, he's longing, he's experiencing longing for contact human. It was kind of like the same thing I was trying to do, only in his little form. So he taught me a lot. And I think
Beautiful.
if you watch that, keep it simple and not in our heads, just be with it. It'll happen naturally. And Bob will kind of, he'll just take over and do it, like kind of do it for you. He'll help you long for him more than you long for anything else. So, Jai Baba.
Beautiful, Heidi. That was good.
Lovely. And Anthony.
Hey everyone, Jai Baba. What is coming to me, what really produces that longing in me, I mean, to the extent I know what longing is, I'm sure it can get a lot more intense than the little bit I feel. Definitely hearing from other Baba lovers who've been on the path with him for a while and have been doing this for a long time. Mostly from the Mandali, the books about the Mandali, and from hearing from everyone in the Zooms here, it makes me want it. Like when I'm around the other people that want it, it just does something. I mean, I feel like when I read discourses, God speaks, like I feel different. I feel like I'm filled up with Baba, and there's like understanding, but there's something about the people in these Zooms and about the Mandali that that they were, trying to live this life and, falling short a lot and then picking back up and having to try more. Just staying connected to everybody that's involved in that has just really made me want it and long for it. The other thing that I feel has made a huge difference, believe it or not, is staying healthy. It's something about when you're eating right and exercising and your energy levels are up. There's so, I don't know, I can feel like I'm on fire to really do this a lot more. And I can tell, on the days if I didn't work out or, I ate unhealthy food, I can feel the lethargy and the tiredness. And, I don't want to get on, Zoom. I don't want to read as much. So I've found that's huge. And I don't know if that's why Baba did ask about people's health so much, is because when you're taking care of yourself, you've got the vitality to want to do this. So that's been my key with it, is just stay healthy and stay around the people that are, that have that momentum going, like everyone here in the Mandali. So Jai Baba.
Beautiful. Anthony, well said. So true.
True. And Ray.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to piggyback on what Heidi said about when we're in silence, how that helps. It's really since I started getting up in the morning to do the Babajap at 7, that little time there, it's been really instrumental in changing my life. It's subtle, but I can trace back many things to like when I started back in March or so of last year. So I would just like to encourage anybody that's thinking about maybe, it's only, I do about 15 minutes and I say the prayers. And plus Baba did say when we say the prayers, he is with us when we say the prayers. So maybe those two things I would encourage because it worked for me. Thanks.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
Great, Ray. You and Jan are kind of stoking the fires.
Yeah.
Yay. And Shraddha.
Hi, Jai Baba, everyone.
Jai Baba.
I would like to, I think I agree with Anthony too. Creating longing, I think that's something that, listening to Mandali and just reading their stories and close connection with those people who built that inner connection with Baba has been hugely helpful in creating that longing. My father recently passed away, and he was just completely filled with conviction and love for beloved Baba. And I think we are very fortunate to have experienced, something as pure as that. And, his devotion, I think he, like what Jeff says, it's just all plan A and not possible for most of us. It came so natural to him. He would just be, so engrossed in doing bhajans and singing songs for his beloved. Like, it was his most favorite thing to do. And watch him do all these things, and how he internally longed for Baba, and purely just for loving, not for getting anything back, not for, he didn't really ask for, I want my family to be healthy or whatever. I think just seeing that pure devotion, just tremendous inspiration. And I think that the life speaks about it. And so I think that definitely helps, seeing someone live go through it, who's had that strong inner bond with with the Lord. I think that's hugely inspirational.
Yeah, her father was magnificent. Do you have a picture of your father right there? Handy,
I do.
Rambau, what a gentle, loving man. All Babas. See, there he is.
That's him at the Pune Meher Center. We took him to the Washington, D.C. Sufi Center. That's there when he was in California with me. That's one of his pictures here. And this is at the Myrtle Beach Center at the Gateway, I believe. This is at the Meherabad Samadhi. And this picture is testimony to him. One of his most favorite activities to do, just sit in front of Baba's photo and sing bhajans and just I don't know, he just adored Baba so much that he used to love Saint Tukaram's story. It was filled with complete devotion for his Lord. And I think he lived a life. He was so inspired, it made a deep impression on him. I think that probably, he just took that to heart, and he lived a life according to what Saint Tukaram probably did, just dedicated his entire life to beloved Baba.
Beautiful, Shraddha.
Yeah.
He's just, very huggable.
Precious. Yeah. Oh, Jeff, did I tell you that towards the last days of him being in critical health, he was in so much pain and agony. The doctors couldn't help a whole lot. They tried to, give some palliative care, but he was still so surrendered and resigned to beloved Baba that he continued doing his 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. prayers every single day. Not a single time has he ever missed. And it has to be sharp at 7 o'clock. Not after, not even a single minute after. My sister says it was to an extent that he didn't even have a watch on him. He didn't have a clock in that room to figure out it was 7, but his body was just so tuned to that timing that it automatically just happened. And the last day when he was conscious, he wasn't able to speak a whole lot. He was constantly drowsy. But one thing he said towards the end was, Baba Ale. He could see Baba in the wall. Baba came. That's what he said. And very clearly, very clearly. My sister tried to ask him, how do you see him and all that stuff? How do we get to see him? And he said, don't you see him on the walls? He's right there. And, that was one of the last things he did. He sang his bhajans that night. And the last word he said was, when my sister said, Avatar Meher Baba Ki, he said, Jai. And that was the last when he was conscious.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. There's the longing right there.
That pretty much defines it right there. And Rita?
Yeah, thank you. Wow.
First of all, Sharada, my heartfelt sympathy to you and your family, and what a beautiful example your father set. And that was a very touching story, and he just looks like such a beautiful man. I took the question literally, how does that manifest in the physical? And so right away I thought, well, what it does for me, it's a feeling of pressure in my heart area. Sometimes it's a feeling of almost being on the brink of crying, and I'm not a crier, just wanting to, I don't know, just let that love flow. It happens like when I'm looking at Baba's picture and I just want to put it to my heart, or reading a book, and like Anthony was saying, something of the mandali is written, and just wanting to put the book to my heart. That's how it expresses itself in me. But, it's there. I retired 2 years ago, and I've really been able to indulge in Baba, and it's such a blessing. It really is wonderful. And just one little example of today, I was enjoying myself before this meeting, watching the PGA tournament with my husband, and Phil Mickelson's leading. It's going to be, setting a record for a 50-year-old to win. And part of me was like, oh, I want to watch this with you. And I stayed, and I said, no, I got to go. I got to be here. Just the longing to be with you guys, like somebody else said, it increases my longing for Baba. Thank you.
If you slip off and get an update, we'll forgive you.
I've got the leaderboard on my phone.
It's exciting. Yeah, it's exciting, really. Okay, wow. We're on to the next one, right?
Yes.
Which is?
Yes, chapter 17, that's page 95, changing our address.
All right, chapter 17, changing our address. God is the only source of abiding joy, yet we fondly cling to the concept of our own separateness. The very last craving we have to relinquish is the desire for separate existence. Darwin Shaw. We have to go through many different lives, and at the end of each lifetime, we have to lay everything down. All we seem to have gained and all we seem to own. We have to let the whole thing go and start over again until after a while we have the good fortune to meet a perfect master or the avatar who helps us to surrender the false self and become born of the spirit. Then we discover that we are not a physical body after all. We were spirit all along. When I met Meher Baba physically in 1934, one of the things he conveyed to me was, quote, I have always been helping you, end quote. And he would say that to each one of us, because whether we realize it or not, he is the one helping within. So when we surrender to him, we are not a ship without a rudder. We have given the master the tiller to steer us.
They used to have a T-shirt back, 30 years ago. On the front it said, life is tough. And on the back it says, then you die. After all of that, then you die and it's all over. Anyway.
But it's not.
But we're lucky. We know that we live on and on. The thing that I want to ask here is the very, it's not so much the belief in separateness. He says the craving, the very last craving we have is to relinquish our desire for separate existence. I mean, what is that craving? I mean, if anybody can answer that, what is that craving? Why do we crave for separate existence?
Ray, go ahead.
I mean, it's one thing to believe in separate existence, but to actually, but he's adding the word craving.
Do you think it's possibly that we are craving the answer to who am I, and where we think we've got it? For me, it's music, and I'll get this, and then I'll do that. So we are craving the who am I answer, and we bounce from answer to answer. That thought sort of occurred to me. Thank you.
Yeah. But then this is not craving for who am I. This is craving for our separate existence.
Yeah, but it's our separative when we say who am I, because we're asking a question and then trying to answer it, we only know how to do it in separative existence because we are not aware of Baba's presence. Okay, anyway.
Yeah, no, good.
Anthony?
Okay, I'm going to try for this one, only because I remember reading this one a couple of different times, and I couldn't understand it either. I was like, what is that? Like wanting separate existence. And I kept sitting with it. And what came to me was just the weirdest thing. I was thinking back to middle school, and like when everybody doesn't know who they are and they're trying to assert their individuality. And like this one's dressing up like this, like, oh, I'm a rock and roll person. And, you know, I grew up in the 90s there. So, I mean, in my middle school, it was like, you know, people would try on that persona of, oh, I'm a rock and roll guy. I'm a rap person. I'm an athlete. I'm a this. And I just remember seeing that. And, you know, that of course continued in high school where people are trying to assert this individuality, like to be somebody, to be noticed, to feel like they're important. And then it dawned on me that, you know, we keep doing that all through life. I mean, maybe not that obviously, but it gets transferred over to like our career. You know, I'm going to be a prominent businessman that's respected in the community, and that's who I am. I'm going to be the knowledgeable, you know, engineer or academic. So I don't know. I was just thinking of that, and I'm like, wow, that when we get to feel that identity, like that separate, like I'm this, that stands out, there's like an elation from it. There's like a feeling of importance. I am somebody. I'm important. So, you know, it was kind of dawning on me that, in my opinion, I was thinking that Baba was meaning that we have to kind of give that up and not want to be this person anymore on whatever level, you know, and to just be his, and to just be in, you know, in the divine flow, and not trying to be this little entity that dresses itself up and acts like this and is noticed and complimented. So I don't know. That's what came to me. I don't know if it's right.
No, very good. That opens it up, what you said.
Yeah, Julie.
Here we are. Hi, Jay Baba. So I have come across this in various ways where this wanting to earn Baba's love creates an urge for separation. So I'm going to earn Baba's love this way. So I'm almost sure we're all doing that. on some level, if we are separate, if we think we are separate, we're loving him and wanting to love him at the same time. And that, I think, is a type of separation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, even in even in the effort to unite with Baba, we can get into expressing a type of separation. That's true. Holding on to the lover beloved thing without, instead of getting rid of the lover, holding on to that relationship, which is good up to a certain point, but then it starts to get in the way. But yeah, excellent.
And Stuart.
Yeah, I think there can be a matter here also of the ego can be so tricky and relentless that even with the most sincere efforts to let go and move beyond, it can still be there. And there's that wonderful story with Darwin, and Jeff, correct me if I have anything wrong here, but he was on Maribod Hill wrestling with something big inside himself and having a hard time with it, really wrestling. And Baba came walking by, and as Baba walked by, Baba actually was just pulling this thing out of him, just taking it in grace. But Darwin said, I think to his horror, he's reacting, saying, no, wait, that's mine, even as Baba was pulling it out of him.
Yeah, he found the very thing he was trying to get rid of to Baba. As Baba's wave of love passed through him, he found he was actually holding on to it, But then once Baba removed it, he said he felt such a completeness. He restoreth my soul. That line from the Bible came to him. Yeah.
Great example there. And Rita.
I feel like for me, it's being afraid that I won't be able to experience what I has taken me so long to strive for, the union or whatever. And I've read that even sixth plane people are hesitant and kind of need to be pushed. So I don't know if it's being afraid of change, wanting the beloved lover relationship, but I think the separate existence gives you the feeling that you're going to still be there when it's all done. And I'm not talking about the personality, I'm just talking about the essence and the consciousness of God. So that may be a different thing, but that's what I was thinking, is that I'm afraid I won't be able to get the experience of it.
Yeah, no, I remember Erich saying that the beloved God prayer, help us all to love you more and more and still yet more until we become worthy of union with you. And Erich said to Baba, why do you say that? It should be, beloved God, help us all to love you more and more and more and more until we are no more. Now that means that we're out of the picture. Talk about losing yourself. I mean, it'd be nice if you can be there with the union, you're still there and Baba's there. But his idea was, just get demolished and then Baba remains. So that at that level, they're still wanting to hold on to being there when it happens,
I'd like to throw in a couple cents here. I feel like if it was that easy that we could just be God realized, we'd all be like done, it'd be like there's a craving, there's an addiction that keeps us here. And I look at it as that same fear, like all this fear that we're living with coronavirus and the fear of dying, and wow, we could be gone in like 2 weeks, and look at that person, he's gone so fast, and that fear of like suddenly losing everything that we built up in this life, that of course carries over to every single life. So there's an addiction there, there's I mean, we're having so much fun. Even if we're suffering, we don't want to let this life go. We're still holding on to this. Don't let that. So I think that that's the craving that Darwin is referring to. Because if we were able to absolutely embrace our ability to just die, give it all up, we would be able to also, God realize, just in this moment, because it's the same, isn't it? It's the same energy of like total release.
Yeah, and the thing that complicates the whole thing is that it's not just becoming united with Baba, it's becoming everybody else. In other words, you can give up your separate existence and kind of merge with Baba for certain moments, but then you have all these people around you. Can you get out of yourself into them? That's also dissolving the separateness. You know what I mean? And Baba said the path is through people. I mean, he said that to Helen Dom. So Baba gave me this figure one time is, say I'm got my hands up here, and say I'm over here writing, I'm writing something, and this other hand comes over there, get out of there. What are you doing? I'm the one that writes the checks around here. I'm writing, get out of there. We're fighting, we're just fighting a oneness, I mean, we create this other hand that's in the way, an obstacle. No one is really in our way, but it's kind of, but that's why I say the being empathetic with others dissolves a lot of the separateness, not only in the world, but with Baba too. I mean, it's coming at it on a horizontal way instead of just a vertical way, so to speak. So that makes the effort much more massive. If it was just me realizing myself, but there's all that life out there we have to become one with, empathize so deeply with. Yeah.
So this is sort of ties back to the thing we were talking about with longing before. It sort of, they overlap to me a lot. But I just wanted to talk about this experience I've been having the last 2 days. My cat escaped, and she's been my comfort and everything during COVID. And I was heartbroken, and she's been outside, but she doesn't leave the yard. See, this is such a metaphor for me. She hangs around, but she won't let me touch her. She won't let me come near her. But then I'll go out and I'll sit in total silence. And then all of a sudden, boom, I see her. Very rarely, never when I expect it. And the minute I see her, there is just this, my heart just leaps. There is so much joy. I see her beauty, and she's black. So I think of Baba's curls. And I think for me, the longing is like that. And it is all of the time. There's situations, there's the things that are the cravings and desires. That's a different story. But when it really comes from love, that there's this place that Baba will continue to give me intermittent visitations. Just enough to open my heart, shock me into joy and excitement and knowledge of his beauty. And then gone. That's all I wanted to share. Thanks.
Beautiful. Lovely.
And I guess the last bit on that is, of course, he's still in my yard. He never went anywhere. He's out there. Right? She's out there. She hasn't left the yard. So hopefully, but that's Baba too. He never is really absent. So it's been a gift. Tough, but a gift.
Oh, that's a great story. Page 95, a working stance.
Mayor Baba knows that surrender is not easy for us to do. He says complete self-surrender is most difficult to achieve, and yet the most essential condition of spiritual advancement is the decreasing of egoism to its minimal. That is a very powerful statement. Somehow, while continually decreasing our egoism, we have to walk the sharp edge of the sword of inaction on the one hand and pride of action on the other. What a dilemma. However, Baba provides a simple, practical way to deal with this dilemma. The creation of a new ego called a provisional ego to take the place of the ego that we built up and then dote upon. This new ego, Baba says, becomes the source of our confidence, feeling, enthusiasm, and go that true action must express. This provisional ego allows a working stance for consciousness that will be completely subservient to the master. Wholehearted allegiance to the master is vitally important. It means not holding anything back or keeping a secret life of your own still going on the side. Operating from the provisional ego, we shift our focus from thinking that it is we who are doing anything to thinking it is the master who is doing everything through us. There is that paradox again. It is a matter of taking responsibility for our actions and feelings, yet bypassing the ego and attributing everything to the master, to his doing. Our purpose is to minimize the sense that we are doing anything. This provisional ego, surrendered to the master, helps us towards emancipation. We can use it throughout our journey on the spiritual path. Then, as Mayor Baba says, when the time comes, it can be thrown away like a garment. The provisional ego is a means for drawing closer to the master within. Having a provisional ego is like having a close friend who happens to be the master, who is so close that you know or can get an inspiration as to what he wants or does not want. It is the assumption of an attitude of learning towards the will of God. It is a matter of motive, meaning. Are we interested in sanskaric fulfillment or the will of God? After we die to the false self, our motive becomes serving God's will. We give up interest in the false self.
Any comments? That's that provisional ego again, haunting us.
Laurice.
Hi, Dick. Is that, do I understand it that then the provisional ego is where I say Baba does everything through me? Is that what it is? That's how I create the provisional ego, is say Baba's doing this, Baba's eating this, Baba's talking to this person, Baba's upset, Baba's sick, Baba's this. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it right there.
Okay, I don't have a provisional ego yet, but I'm willing to try.
Yeah.
I forget.
Beautiful.
It's not much, but I just had the thought, is it, because provisional ego, it always makes my head spin, but I had the thought, is it just, if you can get to the point where you are firmly rooted, or as firmly as you can be rooted, in the idea that Baba is who he says he is and loves you and is doing everything for the best. And so don't be so attached to the results that you think should happen. Just do it, what you think you got to do. And if it doesn't work out the way you expected, what would be the best in your avataric, trying to be an avatar mind, is it that you just do what you're going to do, and always not being so firmly invested in the result that you can't just say, oh, I think it should be like it didn't happen. Oh, okay. Is it something like that? Or like I have a little problem in my software I've been trying to work out, and I can't get one driver to talk to the other. And I say, and after all, I just start to laugh and say, I don't know what's going on here. Whereas before, I would get really depressed, not meaning that I don't get a little depressed, that I'm being stupid about something tech, but is it something like that you're willing to like let it go? That's my long-winded question. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's one a major piece in the apparatus, really. But we'll keep this on the table here. But that what you said, Ray, that's a vital part of the whole thing.
Heidi?
Yeah. I think provisional ego, just provisional, is like temporary, but it also is connected to service, I think. At least that's how I experience it when I know I'm allowing Baba to flow through me, not in an egotistical way. It's because I have a desire for Baba to work through me, to be of service. That seems to click with me.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own nature and personality. You sort of have to figure out where's the click, in your nature this lifetime that, fits the pieces of the puzzle together where you have a fit. I'm in the provisional zone with Baba. And, it's not permanent. I've never experienced it to be permanent. It's moment to moment, service to service. But it's allowing, stepping aside in some way and letting Baba be. So whatever, floats your boat, however you can get in, what is your key to experience it? You know what I mean? I think that's kind of, for me,
Yeah.
it's service. For others, it could be fixing a car, and they're in service. And when they get into that zone, fixing the car, they're just in this flow, and like Baba's flowing through them, and they're figuring out how to fix the car. There's genius all around us, whatever we do, and it's Baba's genius flowing through us because we want to be in that connection. So that's I
Yeah.
thought.
No, very good point. To be attuned to your nature, your way of expressing, way Baba can express through you.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Provisional ego is the ego which one can have. Everything is related to Baba's work, following Baba's principles, Baba's messages, or any work, whatever we are doing for Baba. Like our helping, our service, our organizing meetings, or publishing books, or magazines, or anything related to Baba's work, one can have provision. That I feel is a provisional ego, which is accepted. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is my point.
Good. That's similar to Heidi, what Heidi was saying. Good. Yeah. And you're a doctor, so you're in the service
Yes.
profession.
Profession. And that is my personal experience also. Lots of experience I have. Everything, whatever I do, I start with Baba's name. Even watching patients, when I'm on consultation, also doing consultation, anything. Examining the patient or any surgeries or anything, I take Baba's name first. It has been for years I've been doing it. And it really helps me a lot.
Yeah. Very
That is the
touching.
power in Baba's name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jai Baba.
That was beautifully said. Thank you. I'm reading Darwin Shaw's last sentence. I'm going to add one sentence and see if it makes this provisional ego. Darwin writes, the very last craving we have to relinquish is the desire for separate existence from Baba. If I add those two words on, That's those italicized words. Darwin writes, and I add a few words. The very last craving we have to relinquish is the desire for separate existence from Baba.
Yeah, that's
And if I was really, 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 really serious above whatever serious I may have, if I was really, really, really serious, can you imagine if Meher Baba was here with us in the physical form, how we would behave, how our ego would automatically, to such a degree, get out of its way, and we would be in a whole different mental, emotional space. Because if I don't do that seriously, if I don't really, really, really take the belief system and realitize it, that Bob is right here, right next to you and me right now, that Bob is in each one of our voices speaking, but more concentratedly and more consecratedly can Jeff, with his big ego and his desires and his faults and his weaknesses, and I'm not trying to be a humble guy, I have 1,000 and 1,000 more and 10,000 after that. Can I really humble myself and have Baba right here and now and behave and respond and I was going to say react. Can I not react, but rather respond as if Baba's right here? Because that provisional ego will become so provisionally connected to my conditioned mind of all its habitual ways. And we all know how we have our habitual ways. So all the words are simply saying, can I take that very last craving that I have to relinquish my desire for a separate existence from Baba? Can I take it so to heart, too seriously? It's important, but can I take it to heart? Can I take it into the deepest place of my soul that Baba has blessed me with a relationship with him, and I'm not really, really engaging at the deepest depths, because I'm not, but I'm sort of talking to myself. Maybe it'll make sense to other people. Jeff, starting right now, don't you really want to have that longing as we're talking about? Don't you really want to get that provisional ego? So just pay attention to the reality that you can't see, but you know is true, that Baba is with you, and start being in whatever you do and say as if Baba's right next to you. That's the only way I can get a provisional ego, because God knows that's really what I think we all would like to have, to get that longing and to get closer and closer. And we all are very close, much closer than we realize, but we want to be closer, really closer. I hope that makes some sense.
Yeah.
Makes some sense to my egoic mind.
And if we were interested in our separate existence, we wouldn't be hanging out with Baba and trying to remember him. You know what I mean? Because we are courting our own, what can I say, our own, we're courting our own executioner, so to speak.
I'm not sure if I've got this right, so I'm looking for feedback. So when I'm in my longing to be with Baba, my go-to is, am I doing my best, Baba? And then the next piece, don't worry, be happy. I will help you. So that step-by-step process, does that make sense to get to that place? That, like, it feels is for me, because I think it was Heidi who said finding your thing. I like to do my best. Like, that's important to me. No matter what I'm doing, I like to do my best. It may not always be great, but I do my best. So does that make sense, that format? And I'm totally open for feedback. Jay Baba, thank you.
Yeah, let's put that out there. She's the post-digital age is raising her hand.
Marta, go ahead.
I so apologize, Angela. By now I should know where in the hell the raise a hand thing is, but I don't. So I'm so sorry.
I'm going to delete that out of the recording.
Anyway, so I always fall back on this when I start to think, what's going on? What are they saying? How can I do this? What should I do? Then all of a sudden I remember all I have to do is say Baba's name and he'll take care of it. And then I just have this whole, oh, okay, that's fine. So Wendy, you're perfect. What you said is perfect because you just think of Baba and then that's the name of the game, isn't it?
Yeah. All the roads of remembrance to Baba are going to help in every way by, yeah. Even if you climb Mount Everest for Baba, you're gonna get closer to him. Or clean out the bathtub for him. That's gonna bring you closer to him.
That's a little more like it.
Anything.
Thank you.
Leave the room you're in, page 96.
One of the main requisites of the spiritual path is that as spiritual aspirants, we are willing to give our lives for the Master, for God. Meher Baba says to be willing to die for the happiness of the beloved is true love. To die before you die, to die to the self, to die for the beloved. This can be a means of precipitating our consciousness to a freer level of experience. Dying to oneself is not a temporary letting go of imagination, but a willingness to surrender the egoic life and be born of the Spirit. Dying to ourselves and being born in the Spirit is like going from the room we are in to the room next door, where the furnishings are entirely different. This we understand. It is clear to us. We have to leave this room in order to go into that room. We cannot take this room with us. Our consciousness is the vehicle stationed in the room we are in currently. And when our consciousness is in this room, but we want it to be in that room, we have to be willing to leave the room we are in. It is as simple as that, although seemingly difficult for us to do.
Should we read that? Should that be read again, or let's read it again? I mean, it's not exactly. It takes some pondering. What is the room we're going to? I mean, to get to flesh that out a little bit. Yeah. Who is Gabriella? Was it she that read it?
Yeah, I'll read it again. Okay. Leave the room you are in. One of the main requisites of the spiritual path is that as spiritual aspirants, we are willing to give our lives for the Master, for God. Meher Baba says, to be willing to die for the happiness of the beloved is true love. To die before you die, to die to the self, to die for the beloved, this can be a means of precipitating our consciousness to a freer level of experience. Dying to oneself is not a temporary letting go of imagination, but a willingness to surrender the egoic life and be born of the spirit. Dying to ourselves and being born in the spirit is like going from the room we are in to the room next door, where the furnishings are entirely different. This we understand, it is clear to us. We have to leave this room in order to go into that room. We cannot take this room with us. Our consciousness is the vehicle stationed in the room we are in currently. And when our consciousness is in this room, but we want it to be in that room, we have to be willing to leave the room we are in. It is as simple as that, although seemingly difficult for us to do. I'm really glad you asked me to read it again because I got so much out of it the second time too. I have a few comments. Can I just, since
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, first of all, it's what a level of commitment that is, that we're talking about here. This isn't just, like it said, it's not just you do it once or you try it later. It's like a whole complete renovation, a whole complete change of consciousness. It reminded me of why are we so desperately holding on to our separateness? And I'm thinking it's because we've been building up these consciousnesses the way we think to our best of our ability with Baba. And then he's asking us to just leave all that behind and go to another room. And of course, we don't really lose, in reality, I'm sure we don't lose our essence. But it's so scary because we've been working on these consciousnesses for a long time. And the thought of, I think sometimes we do stuff like move to a new house or renovate our house or something actually physical in the outside world in hopes that we'll get this experience, but it's much harder to actually be looking around and still seeing the same physical room, but knowing spiritually I'm in a different room, that my consciousness is in an entirely different place. And the last thing I want to say is I love the line, we're precipitating our consciousness to a freer level of experience. I think that's the key. And that when I'm willing to take that leap, it's like a little bird leaving the nest and can fly. Can I do it? I'm willing to, do it. I will actually be freer, but it's scary to leave the nest. Thanks.
Yeah. No, that was that kind of fills it out a lot more.
So the way that I understand it with my limited understanding is that even leaving the room is a gradual process. It's not that I decide after this session is finished, I decide to leave this room where my consciousness is stationed and then go to the other room, which I can feel and be with Baba more and more. So, Darwin have been taking us step by step. So I'm not going to go way further back, but just before here, when Baba talks about provisional ego, which, he talks about it in discourses, and Darwin is beautifully addressing it. I think the main thing that, the main reason behind it is for us to give up on self-importance, for us to not take ourselves and life seriously. Why? Because this life is all imagination. Baba has said it many ways and through different words and so forth. So the tool, provisional ego for me is like a tool. It's something that Baba, out of his compassion, have offered to us, where we can give everything to Baba. And just by that, I think he's helping us not to make any more samskaras, when we are doing something. When we give it to him, he takes the responsibility. He said that many times. So it's most wonderful tool, or whatever I like to call it, to really put it into work. And after a while, it becomes a habit. You don't even have to think about it. Practice makes it perfect. Now, as far as this one, that, you know, there are, it seems that Darwin talks about some prerequisites, or, you know, he talks about main requisites, but I feel that he's talking about some prerequisites to be able to leave this room and go to the other room. One of these prerequisites, it looks like you got to be willing to give up your life, and not necessarily your life, but your existence, if master asks for it, for the happiness of your master. So you've got to be in that level of surrender, where you can live for Baba, die for Baba, think for Baba, do everything for Baba, everything for Baba. So, you know, all of a sudden, this reminded me of this story. I think, I don't know whether I read it in discourses or God's way, but it seems that it's more of a discourse. So Baba talks about this master, that one time he wanted to test his disciples. I'm just paraphrasing. So he asked them to come and surround him, and he said, you know, there's not much time is left for my life, and I may die in a day or two, but there may be a way to save me. And the way it is that one of my knees is full of poison. And if any of you, my disciples, are willing to, you know, sit down and suck this poison out of here, then I may have some out of my knee in the feet. I may have a chance to live. And so a few of disciples start looking at each other, but one of his disciples that was very close to him, without a pause, bent down and put his you know, head on this master's knees to start sucking, and, you know, he was willing to just give up and take that poison up. And then he just gently pushed him back, says, I was kidding. I was just kidding. There is no poison, and I'm not going anywhere. I was just going to test the level of your devotion. You know, and are you willing to give up your life for your master? Actually, this is something we can always ask ourselves. If you were that disciple, would you bend down and take those poison from Baba's knees, right? Well, I asked myself. Anyway.
And he put he wrapped up a ripe mango. So,
oh yeah, mango, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. You have a much better memory than I do, yes. Yeah, it looked like that, yes. Yeah. So, so that's exactly it. If we are willing to surrender to the will of Beloved, and then, you know, we no longer exist. Everything is His. Everything is His. And the way to do it, actually, I think we must not just keep on complaining about this life. Oh, you know, I have this, I have pain in my body, I have this, I have that. Well, you know, to take whatever surrounding us, take it seriously. And we ask ourselves, that's what I do. Well, do you really, Mahu, wants to go, come and back and just keep on going back and forth with all these incarnations? You know, do you want to do that? And my inner self tell me, no, you must be fool. What's in it for you in this world of illusion, right? So that creates enthusiasm. That creates longing and longing for us, because if we get closer to beloved and if we love him, he gets tempted to help us out and free us and so forth. So it's a constant work of leaving this room. And why are we in this room? Why am I in this room? Well, it's all my attachments through the ages of incarnation, going back and forth, and all these cumulative samskaras that are there. And one more thing, I don't like reading in the house. Yeah, one more thing I was just it came to me is that really, even in this trying time, it's not always the same for us. It all depends on where we are with our unwinding of our samskaras. When he opens up a huge, big chunk of samskaras, sometimes I feel it like you fall down. You go all of a sudden into your weaknesses and so forth. So it all also depends on where we are with our samskaras and where the master is with our samskaras to free us. Those are the little things to consider. Yeah, Jai Baba.
Jai Baba, yeah.
I just feel like what I liked about that last section of Darwin's when he talks about being born of the spirit, because for somehow maybe it's being raised Christian, but that I can connect with really well. Being born of the spirit, moving into the room of the spirit as a felt sensation, a felt sensation in the body, in the being that being that there's a longing there. I mean, when we just say longing, I'm left a little bit like Marta, like what it's not definable to me, but being born of the spirit is much more definable to me. And I'm with the plan B that Jeff, you described, that Merwin talked to you about the provisional ego. It has more, for me, that has a little more juice, because I can say, Baba, Baba's with me talking right now. And I can, and maybe there is a sense of his presence. And then I'm not in my mind trying to figure everything out, like trying to say, oh, is this the provisional ego? Am I longing? Is this moving to another room? That almost trips me up a little bit, to be honest, just personally. And just to say, being born of the spirit and having a sense of the spirit of Baba's spirit with me, present here every moment. And that has something that I can really connect with longing.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think what you said is, one of the things that just we're coming down to the end here, but one kind of way of thinking of moving into different rooms is, before Baba, we were kind of out in the world a lot more. Everything was measured by how we were doing in the world. And then at some point we moved into a subjective side. We're starting to work on how we respond to the world. So we've actually we've switched from the outside world more and more to the inside world. Then the inside world, we have kind of our negative and more superficial level. We're at that level for a while, and then we're being asked to go to the deeper part of our another room that's deeper within us. And then the world of the spirit, that room, is kind of timeless and spaceless. You know, I mean, that's another one we're going to eventually move into so that we can be there. I mean, I felt Darwin was kind of there. He moved all, you know, he got rid of his furniture at this garage sale, moved into the realm of the spirit. And it's there. I mean, so, but it's gradual, moving from one kind of, from the objective world to the subjective world, and then all of the varying stages until we reach that, the soul or the spirit. And it's, and if you can get over to the, if you can spend some time in the realm of the spirit, the more you do that, the more longing you want to be there instead of down into this double wide trailer that we live in, you know, of consciousness. Anyway, let's have a few moments of silence or before we go on. Jai Baba. That moment of silence is kind of like another room in itself. And the heart-centered meditation, we're not going to have that today, but that's going into another room for sure. With but now I was thinking of just ending this now because there's a lot yet ahead of, unless anybody has anything to bring up or mention. I think some people have already gone into the other room.